One of the things that happens at theme parks, especially Disney, is that you can't help but run into celebrities. So here's a look at what we did and didn't do when a celebrity came around, and some of the ones that I got to encounter while working. People who we call celebrities, famous people, athletes, actors, they show up at the parks on a fairly frequent basis, especially Disney. Disneyland in particular because it's down in LA, but we have our share over at Disney World as well. And in the course of working over the 5 years I was there, I had the opportunity to cross paths with several of them. I had one time where Joan Rivers was shooting some TV commercials and things right next to me. I got to pass Britney Spears and her entourage in the tunnels. Miley Cyrus one time, when she was still filming Hannah Montana, was down in the utilidors, and I actually just missed her entourage, but a couple of my photographer friends got to run into them. At the time, they said she was really nice, too, but that was their word. I didn't get to meet her. And so we would run into celebrities on a fairly frequent basis. Now, to help make things a little easier for them, and so they didn't get mobbed, Disney would allow them access into special areas of the park, like the utilidors under Main Street, or some of the backstage areas where guests normally don't get to go. They would often give them a tour guide just to kind of help escort them through the line so they didn't get surrounded and harassed by the crowds, trying to make it as easy and smooth as possible. For us as cast members, we were basically given a general direction that if we saw somebody famous, an athlete, an actor, TV star, movie star, whatever it might be, that we were to treat them pretty much like any other guest. We were not to make a big deal. Absolute huge no-no was no autographs, no selfies, no pictures, no posing, no tossing a lot of questions, but to treat them just like we would any other guest. So if we passed them somewhere in the park, we were to keep going, maybe a quick wave hi if they were looking our direction, but otherwise, we weren't supposed to bother with them. A good example of this for me was a couple times when I was shooting over in Germany with Snow White, and we had the candlelight processional going on. Well, Germany's pavilion isn't too terribly far from the U.S. pavilion, and where we had our break rooms and trailers wasn't very far from where the celebrities and the people doing the candlelight processional were actually staying and relaxing. And so we would occasionally cross paths with them. I walked past Stephen Curtis Chapman when he was getting ready to do his, as well as Cheetah Rivera. And the rule when I passed was, you don't say hi. If you were to make a big deal over one of them, you were probably going to cost yourself a job, so it better be somebody that you thought your whole job was worth saying hi to. I do remember Stephen Curtis Chapman kind of waved at me a little bit as I walked by, which, was kind of cool. Which for me was a kind of a neat moment to be able to see him. But Disney always had things going on as well. During Christmas, they would get ready to film the big Christmas parade for TV, and they'd do that ahead of time, and they would have a stage set up and all sorts of different stars and people taping and filming on the main street. I can remember one other time, too, that we had an event. We had one of the Jonas Brothers there, along with Demi Lovato. And I know they were putting on a concert over by the fountain, and I think it was Joe Jonas, but I don't remember for sure. You kind of knew where he was in the park because you could hear the curls screaming as he was walking around. Poor guy. I felt so bad for him. Demi Lovato, I know, had a little bit of a crowd following her too, but not quite as much. But they were both pretty popular. It was definitely interesting working at Epcot that day and hearing the crowds and watching them kind of move around and trying to work around them and not get caught up in it. We had people that would film commercials on Main Street on a regular basis, and so we would get used to walking around the sets and working around them, and if they were actually out with the TV cameras, and we had to make sure that we were out of the way of the TV cameras, as well as making sure if we were shooting pictures of guests, that we weren't shooting pictures of the TV cameras. Over on the gardens around the Castle Hub, they would often shoot as well. I can remember one time I was out there just with my family as a guest, and they were doing one of their big commercials with Cinderella and a family and kids, and they're all out on the lawn with the lights and the cameras and everything out filming that. And that was kind of a neat thing to be able to see. But again, the rule was we weren't to bother them. We weren't to get in the way. Now, they would occasionally ask a few cast members to be background people and walk around. I didn't get to do any of those while working. They would use cast occasionally. They would actually often bring in whole crews of their own extras wearing certain outfits, and it wasn't unusual to film overnight. That way the park would be closed, they wouldn't have to worry about regular guests. In fact, with America's Funniest Home Videos, that's actually what they did a lot of times, was they would film that after the park was closed and put on huge lights. Even so, AFV shot out there often enough, I did run into Tom Bergeron a couple times. He probably just knew me as that photographer that walked past him and didn't even notice. But hey, he was out there. Your managers would let you know when you started the day, hey, by the way, they're filming over there. Stay away from it. Yes, sir. Got it. And you just leave them alone and let them do the filming. It would make for some rather interesting moments. I can remember one time I was shooting pictures over in the China Pavilion with the big temple there. And it was late in the evening. We probably had about an hour left till the park closed. Had this young couple come up, and I was taking their picture like anybody else. And I realize as I'm taking them, there's these two girls over on the side standing and watching, and they're going, okay, that's a little different. So I finished the pictures, thanked them very much, handed them their photopass card, wished them a good night, and he left and turned around and kind of like, looked at the girls saying, okay, what was that about? Like, do you know who that was? No. And it was so important to me, I didn't even remember the name. I still don't remember who it was. But apparently I took a picture of somebody really famous in front of China. And as silly as it sounds, that was kind of the attitude that we were supposed to have. But again, Disney World didn't have as many celebrities as, say, Disneyland does. In fact, when I used to live in Southern California, it was almost a regular thing if we went to one of the parks down there to run into somebody. I can remember we were at Knott's Berry Farm with my church youth group one time, and as we're on one of the rides up in the air, we look down, and there's Richard Karn with his family. And he's out there, and he's being very nice to people who are walking up to him. And my teenagers start going, look! You're going to leave him alone. He's out with his family. Let him enjoy the day. One of the things I was very privileged to be able to do while I was living down in Florida was I had the opportunity to film a few commercials for Disney. My kids actually got to be background extras in a movie, Ace Ventura Jr. We got to see behind the scenes and work with some of the people and see what it was like to be on the other side of the cameras. And you know what? They're not that different than us. It's just that their job is a bit different and everybody gets to see them do it. And so we learned quickly to just let them be them and have their time and let them eat their meals and let them enjoy their family and go on the rides and not have to deal with us, at least, in their face. And that was one of the big things I carried with me when I did go into Disney and start working. Now, while Silver Dollar City didn't get as many big-time celebrities, we'd have our share. Now, if you're not familiar with the Branson area, Branson has a lot of theaters, a lot of shows. And especially if you're into country music, it has some fairly big names. Not huge names, but the Oak Ridge Boys are around, Jim Stafford is around, Clay Cooper, who's had some hits. But it also has a number of local families that entertain as well. For example, the Hughes brothers, the Knutson brothers, which are better known in the area as Six. The Presleys are in town and have been here forever. No relation to Elvis, really. And a number of others. And, of course, working in Silver Dollar City, you see them fairly often. You get to know the people in the shows in town on a first-name basis a lot of times. I personally didn't run into anybody really famous at Silver Dollar City, but one of my coworkers got to take Dolly Parton around on the train and got to meet her a couple times. Had a couple people that said they met Taylor Swift when she was at the park. I have no idea if that was true or if they made it up. I kind of doubt. But I had a great time with the locals. I made some good friends with several of them. Still have some that I talk to on the side, which for me personally is kind of cool because I was just this guy on the train. That was kind of the neat special thing about it, was we got to know them not just as the entertainers, but as the normal people. It's actually one of the things I really like about the people in Branson. If you ever get an opportunity to come out to Branson and go see some of the shows, you'll find that most of them will actually meet people at intermission. They'll meet them after the shows. They'll hang around. They'll talk. I've had a couple times when I've been at the local shows and we've stood there for an hour afterwards just talking about different things. It's really a neat thing when you get to sit down with them and realize just how normal all these people really are. And so, yes, I got to work with celebrities at Disney. Yes, I got to meet them at Silver Dollar City. But in the end, they're just regular people. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed my few little stories about celebrities.